Under a moonlit sky, a man declares that the time has come. He reveals that, despite his clan's destruction at the hands of the demonic sect, their sole reason for enduring was to seek vengeance. Perched atop a tree branch, he leaps over a wall, a fire flickering below. A guard stands watch, but shadowy hands emerge from the darkness, causing him to whip his head around, much like when I catch a glimpse of your mother passing by. He mutters that it won't be long before they notice the sentry's absence, and vows to end it all before that happens. The slaughter unfolds, and an old man's voice remarks on the commotion outside. His gaze lifts, revealing eyes of a deep crimson hue. The man outside scoffs, noting that the old man meditates calmly while his followers are cut down, calling him as cold-hearted as ever. The old man retorts that the same could be said of his foe, rampaging ignorantly and heartlessly, asking if a man climbing a mountain would care about the insects beneath his feet. Naturally, he wouldn't, as his eyes would be fixed on the summit that's the path to mastering martial arts. The man dismisses this as nonsense, and we learn his name is Kang Win. He swears to kill the old man, revealed as the heavenly demon, with his own hands today. Win surges forward, a blue aura glowing from his fist, charging up lightning in a technique called the Heavenly Lightning Fist. He aims directly for the heavenly demon's face. The old man chuckles, asking if that's all he has, extending his own hand to unleash a martial art known as the Heavenly Blood Tide art. He tells Win to observe and learn as he fires an energy beam, clashing with Win's fist in a Dragon Ball Z-style energy duel. The heavenly demon prevails, his beam slicing past Win's hand, grazing his face, and Win identifies it as a sword QI. The heavenly demon declares he'll send Win to join his father today, claiming it's over. But Win has other plans, unleashing another technique. The heavenly demon's eyes widen in shock as Win counters with a palm strike, the heavenly divine palm, shattering the energy beam. The old man is stunned, unable to believe his steel-tempered fist, harder than iron, was bested by bare hands. Win lands a direct hit to the heavenly demon's chest, lightning coursing through his body, hurling him into the wall behind. Panting, Win tells him to stop mentioning his father with that filthy mouth, reminding him of the evil deeds he's committed, and declaring this the fury of all his victims. The heavenly demon laments not eradicating the Cloud Dragon sect's roots back then, admitting he's genuinely surprised by Win's enlightenment. He acknowledges that Win broke through his heavenly demon blood surge art, leaving him no choice. Pulling out a gourd, Win questions if it's an elixir. As the old man chugs it, Win warns that consuming such a quantity at once will trigger demonic chi deviation. A purple energy shatters the gourd as the heavenly demon powers up, his QI overflowing. His face strains, eyes bulging, and he unleashes a mighty roar, sending a shockwave outward. Win raises his hands to shield against the gust, stunned by what he's seeing. The heavenly demon's voice calls out from behind, and as Win turns, an attack is already incoming, with the old man proclaiming, "It's time for Win to vanish." Win realizes he's too late, but a barrier forms, shielding him. He recognizes it, astonished. A new figure appears, apologizing for his tardiness, admitting he was slacking off. Win calls him the Great Mage, but the man snaps, telling him to drop the lame nickname. He asks if this is the enemy Win mentioned. Win confirms, noting this is the one who claims to hail from another world, and without him, Win would have died defenselessly. The scene shifts to reality, where a man yells, "Wait!" He thought this was a standard Murim tale, and is baffled by the sudden appearance of a high mage from another world, calling it a mood killer. He grumbles that the author must be on some wild drugs, as a new world popping up makes no sense. We're introduced to Jin Seowoon, a 23-year-old who was discharged 6 months ago and is preparing to return to college. His phone buzzes, and his friend asks if he wants to play ranked games. Seowoon wonders if his friend has no one else to game with. Like many post-military dischargees, he had a solid life plan: earn certifications, prepare for college, and study what he missed during service. But he's been distracted by society's fun. Heading to town, he notes he has some money left but considers a part-time job. As a Murim novel enthusiast, he's often lost in fantasies of being a Murim protagonist. At a PC cafe, the cashier greets him by name, asking if he's playing Loyal Ground again. Seowoon confirms, requesting 10 hours. He's sunk countless hours into Loyal Ground, the only game he played during leave post-discharge, climbing to a top 10 ranker in 3 months. Joining Discord, he tells his friend he's logging in and to wait in the lobby. He's earned pocket money from occasional cafe tournaments. The game, PUBG, involves 100 players dropping from a plane, gathering weapons, and fighting until one remains. Seowoon calls out coordinates, spotting 2 enemies at 120 on the compass. He fires, landing double headshots, eliminating them. His friend cheers that only 2 remain, but Seowoon, annoyed, tells him to quiet down since he already died once, urging they farm and stay alive to reach the safe zone. His friend says he trusts only Seowoon. As the circle tightens, other players approach a building. Spotting loot like a first aid kit, they assume no one's been there. It's a trap, obvious to PUBG players, as Seowoon's character camps in a corner. Gunshots ring out, and an enemy outside realizes his teammate's down, cursing the camper. Fleeing instead of fighting, he's shot in the back of the head. Seowoon wins the chicken dinner. His friend thanks him for the carry, and Seowoon tells him to queue up, vowing to start studying tomorrow, a promise often made but rarely kept. A phone notification shows a message from his mother, asking if he's studying and saying she sent academy fees and extra money, apologizing for not sending more. He thanks her, saying he's heading to bed soon. He tells his friend he's done gaming starting tomorrow, citing his mother's texts and guilt over months of slacking. His friend protests, mentioning a planned clan war, but Seowoon insists he must attend an English academy. Back at his apartment, he doomscrolls, stumbling on videos about people with mysterious powers called players spotted abroad. Clicking for more, he finds the video deleted, odd, but dismissed as he goes to sleep. The next morning, heading to the academy, his friend pushes for one last clan war game. A purple light glows behind Seowoon. Turning, he's shocked, wondering what's happening. The light engulfs him, his backpack hitting the floor, leaving no trace. Seowoon questions if the light was punishment for his late resolve to study. Opening his eyes, he hears Russian voices, wondering why it's so loud. Ahead, people wield swords and magic, leaving him baffled by the cosplayers. Seeing spells cast, he wonders if it's a dream. Spotting a statue, he's still confused. A voice in his head announces 100 players detected, startling him with its volume. The statue's eyes glow, declaring system initialization. A blue glow appears in Seowoon's eyes as he remains bewildered. The system synchronizes language, translating the Russian into Korean. A hefty man nearby remarks that everyone's speaking his language now. Murim characters discuss sects, while mages, including one named Chiron, argue. Chiron asks another mage, Escrow, why he was brought here. Escrow calls Chiron shameless, refusing to be fooled. Chiron retorts that belief doesn't matter, as all will kneel before the Demon King's power. Escrow, as an archmage, summons lightning, vowing a promise. He declares that he'll slay him right here and put an end to the Demon King shortly after. He unleashes a technique called the escrow-style lightning, striking Chiron with a surge of electricity. Escrow is then both shocked and puzzled, as Chiron remains entirely unharmed. Escrow mutters that he was certain he dragged him here, while Seowoon observes, realizing this is far too vivid to be a mere dream. The statue then announces that the game is about to commence, set to easy mode. They only need to reach the top 90. The chosen map is the kingdom's capital, with rewards granted to those in the top 10 and above. It adds that it will skip the tutorial and notes that attacking other players in the waiting room is impossible due to neutralization. A map materializes before Seowoon. The statue explains to first-time players of Cloyd Survival that it will provide a brief overview. The game spans 100 years, with the playable map shrinking slightly each day. Leaving the restricted area could lead to severe consequences, so caution is advised. The game persists until only one survivor remains. If the game concludes, or a player is eliminated, they return to their original world. Those who fail to reach the top 90 cannot participate in Cloyd Survival again. Soon, players will descend to their chosen location with the aid of Argus's gaze, where they can collect items to help secure a spot in the top 90. It wishes them luck. Seowoon wonders if he's dreaming of loyal ground right now. The status window reiterates that rewards go to the top 10 and higher. Seowoon, sweating nervously, remarks that even if this is a dream, being surrounded by such wild humans is insane. A man is seen licking his knife. What? A creep. Seowoon realizes he's certain to die. He says that even if it's a dream, he wants no part of it, and if it's truly like the game. But before he can finish, someone shouts, calling him messy hair. The guy asks why he keeps glancing around and where he's from. Seowoon doesn't respond, and the man swings his blade at him, asking if he's being ignored. The game begins its countdown as the man grins. He questions why Seowoon is smiling in such a dire situation, calling him mad. As the countdown reaches 1, Seowoon explains it's for a simple reason. He's having such an exciting dream, so why not enjoy it? With his knowledge of the game, which he shortens to log, he believes he can easily defeat thugs like this and survive. Day 1 of Cloyd Survival begins. They start descending from an airship that doesn't truly exist, gliding down enveloped in aura. Seowoon notices where a dwarf is looking and says they're landing in crowded zones rich with items. As per the game, these areas indeed hold more loot, but he decides it's safer to start on the outskirts. Spotting a house, he declares it a good choice and yells, "Descend!" He plummets straight to the ground, screaming in panic and striking a superhero pose. Naturally, he's unharmed. After landing, he freezes, fighting back nausea due to severe motion sickness. For now, he says, he just needs to enter the house. Hearing rustling in the bushes startles him. He sprints, explaining that motion sickness blurred his vision, preventing him from seeing who landed nearby. He charges through the door, entering the house, and notes that encountering an enemy without a weapon would spell his doom. He shuts the door behind him, panting and clutching his chest. He wonders if it's the sword-wielding thug from earlier, regretting provoking him. Peering out the window, he sees no one and assumes it was just the wind. Hearing no further sounds, he proceeds. He begins searching the house, recalling that items are found where you land. As he moves forward, he spots something beneath him and discovers a heavy crossbow. He remarks, "This thing's way too heavy, but it's better than nothing." Grabbing an arrow from the quiver, he says the knowledge of how to use it instinctively came to him as he loads it. As a South Korean army sergeant, this is child's play. He squeezes the trigger, and the bolt's power sends it crashing through half the wall, knocking him backward. Amazed at its strength, he notes it pierced deep into the wood and could be highly effective with practice. He searches more but finds nothing else. Given the map's vastness, he heads to other buildings, saying that avoiding enemies early lets him safely gather items. He cautiously clears the next house with his crossbow raised. On a table, he finds a scroll, which reveals itself as a small healing scroll that can mend injuries if torn. Stunned that such an item exists, he vows to find more recovery items and wishes for an item bag. Then he notices a glowing purple book on a shelf. Picking it up, he learns it's the Black Star Leader martial arts book, which allows him to channel dark energy through his fingers. It asks if he wants to learn it. Wondering if it'll trigger a tutorial, he accepts, and the book glows brightly, its pages flipping before his eyes. It disintegrates, leaving him confused as he stares at his hands, feeling energy gradually surging within them. To test it, he grabs a fork from the table, infuses it with energy, and hurls it into a wall, where it embeds deeply. Smiling, he marvels at learning a martial art from a book. He retrieves the fork, noting that if martial arts books exist, magic books likely do too. Convinced Cloyd Survival and Loyal Ground are the same, he decides to move on, having thoroughly searched the area. Later, he notes the sun has risen while he was gathering items, and must find a place to hide. Spotting a house with its lights on, he says it could mean a rare item or someone inside. He enters quietly, unsure how many landed nearby, but if someone's there, they're either a pro or a novice. Hearing nothing on the first floor, he wonders if they're on the second and grows anxious. With his weapon and Black Star technique, he thinks he might stand a chance, even against a pro, if he ambushes them. Creeping up the stairs with his crossbow, he spots a lantern and suspects a trap near a room. He kicks the door open, revealing an empty bedroom. Relieved, he says he made a fuss for nothing. On the bedside, he finds a ring, the Ring of Strength, boosting the wearer's strength by 20. Slipping it on his index finger, he feels a strange sensation, his body lighter, the crossbow's weight barely noticeable now. Curious about his stats, he cycles through commands to view his character info, which shows he's fairly weak, likely classified as a martial artist due to the book. Still, he finds it impressive compared to starting with nothing and continues exploring the first floor. He discovers a subspace ring exactly what he wanted earlier, perfect for storing items. The status window explains that to store an item, he must hold it and say or think, subspace. To retrieve, he touches the ring while thinking of the item. If full, no more can be stored. He calls it a game inventory, noting it's more convenient than a bag and would be amazing in real life, along with the items and martial arts. Wondering if anyone's been eliminated, he checks the interface, finding a kill log showing only one elimination. He planned to farm until 90 players remained, but has already gathered many consumables and hidden weapons to pair with his Black Star martial arts. Thinking he's searched everything, he considers moving on but decides to stay until daylight, as the strong players from the waiting room roam at night, and he can't match them yet. Hiding and reaching the top 10 will let him allocate points well. With fewer people at night, he decides to check another spot before sunrise, deeming the risk worthwhile for a good find. As he moves out, he notes he's not tired, despite constant movement, crediting the Ring of Strength. However, he still feels hunger and thirst, suggesting Cloyd Survival mirrors reality. He needs food, which should be in the city per the map, but wonders where the houses are. A wolf snarl sounds behind him, startling him. He dives into bushes, saying he didn't hear it until it was too close. He peers over, spotting it in the distance, and begins to perspire, nervously muttering to Helen that it's actually a werewolf, with another one standing beside it. As he gazes up at it, the creature lunges forward in an attack, which he narrowly evades. The impact obliterates a nearby tree, and now 2 werewolves are glaring at him. He quips to his buddy, referencing their 48-hour gaming marathon, saying he thought this was a PvP game and didn't expect monsters here. If he'd known creatures like these were roaming, he'd have stayed put, adding that as a ranked player in name, dying to a mob would be humiliating. He notices a house in the distance, eventually reaching it, slipping inside, and shutting the door while gasping for breath. The sound of the werewolves prowling outside makes him wonder if they'll actually break in. As one gets closer, he starts strategizing his next move. Cracking the door slightly, he sees them right outside, and notes that their constant sniffing suggests they're tracking his scent. If that's the case, he decides to strike first, readying his crossbow and taking aim. As soon as he has a clear shot, he fires through the narrow opening into the forest, hitting one in the side of the head. The werewolf collapses, vanishing into thin air. He remarks that this is a relief and credits his ring of strength for letting him shoot one-handed. Now he just has to handle the remaining one. After reloading, he turns to locate it, only to be shocked as it's now right at the door. It smashes through, grazing his cheek, bursting in like the Kool-Aid Man. Realizing he's in trouble as it prepares a follow-up attack, he raises his crossbow and fires, but the werewolf blocks the shot with its arm. Seowoon drops the crossbow as the beast charges, ready to end him. He wonders if this is how he gets knocked out of the game. Not yet, he declares, pulling a weapon from his subspace, possibly just a spoon. Infusing it with the black star of martial arts, he pierces straight through the werewolf, punching a hole in the wall as well. Seowoon boasts that there's no way he'd lose to a mere mob. As the creature fades before his eyes, he exhales in relief, admitting he thought he was done for. Collapsing to his knees, he thanks his lucky stars for stashing that throwing dagger earlier, noting how embarrassing it would have been to lose to mobs. He spots a small bag on the ground, a mob drop. Opening it, he finds only water and jerky, grumbling that he can hunt for food himself and was hoping for something better. As he starts eating, he considers checking the area. Inside the house, he finds a piece of armor, comparing it to a bulletproof vest from a game. He puts it on, noting it's a bit large, but it adjusts to fit him perfectly. The status window reveals it's an advanced orichalcum breastplate, boosting his resistance to fire and wind magic significantly. He calls it awesome, saying it enhances more than just a couple of stats, and bets there's more loot nearby. While searching, he bumps his knee on something invisible. Kicking around, he guesses it's a hidden item, picks it up, and finds it feels like fabric. Equipping it, he discovers it's a night cloak that lets him blend into darkness when still, making him undetectable by magic, and silencing his sound. He likens it to an item from Harry Potter, noting it's perfect for avoiding others at night and ensuring his survival. He's puzzled about a house being in the middle of nowhere, but realizes it's a farming spot, suggesting his luck is looking up today. At night, he treks through the woods, remarking that he hasn't seen anyone, possibly because he landed in a random spot. He hears someone behind him, and a tattered man runs through the forest, yelling that he wished he'd had time to use something. Seowoon dons the night cloak and hides in bushes. The man laments encountering a mage here. Seowoon, observing, thinks the guy doesn't look tough and believes he can take him. As the man starts to leave, Seowoon calms himself, reminding himself it's just a game, not a real person, and wonders why he's hesitating to shoot. The man casts a spell, Scroll Flame, firing it near Seowoon. When the man turns, he's hit in the back. Seowoon marvels at the fiery backshot, wondering if the guy died. Noticing no corpse but a chest, he realizes it's definitely a game, and the chest must hold the man's items. He wonders where the fire came from, then sees a big-nosed guy nearby who remarks that someone too weak to use magic dared steal his items, calling him unlucky for suffering a burning death instead of a quick sword kill. Seowon notes the guy didn't spot him thanks to the cloak's power. For some reason, the big-nosed guy says the dead player should be honored to die by his hand, referring to himself as Chiron, which confuses Seowon. The big-nosed guy checks the dropped loot. Seowon reflects that the dead guy was a player like him, and he could be the next target. Hesitation could mean death and a lower rank, so he knows what he must do to survive. As Big Nose sifts through the items, an attack comes from behind, hitting his barrier. He turns, noticing it crack, and blames the noise on the dead player. Seowon fires another bolt, further damaging the barrier. Big Nose panics, warning that his barrier will shatter. Unable to pinpoint Seowon in the nightcloak, he launches a fireball in his general direction, demanding he stop hiding like a coward. A throwing knife flies from the bushes toward Big Nose, who blocks it with his now shattered barrier. Panicked, he keeps shouting for Seowon to reveal himself. Seowon aims his crossbow again as Big Nose begins casting another scroflame, but a throwing knife hits him in the forehead before he can finish. Tears stream down his face as he tries to complete the spell, but the attack ends him. Seowon, stunned by his victory, sees two loot chests. Worried someone might see the fire and follow, he decides to loot quickly and leave. Starting with Big Nose's chest, he grabs everything, including another healing item and an escrow's necklace, which marks the wearer as a mage of the Escrow Magic Society, clearing up the name confusion. He deems it useless for now, and stashes it. Among the items, a circle stone catches his eye, allowing the user to engrave a mana circle around their heart to learn magic. He realizes this is what the fleeing man meant about needing time to use an item. Apologizing, Seowon vows to use it well in his place, tossing the rest into his inventory to check later in safety. Moving through the forest to a hill, he searches for a place to use the circle stone. Spotting houses, he enters one, confirming he wants to use the item. A warning appears: he must remain still for 3 hours, unable to act or use items, and will feel slight pain as the circle forms. His chest soon aches intensely, and he stifles screams, enduring 3 hours of agony. Afterward, drooling on the floor, he complains that slight pain was an understatement, noting that learning martial arts was easier than magic. His status window shows he now has 2 jobs and a mana stat. Checking the survivor count, he's shocked to see it drop to 45 out of 100, with someone named Nam Sagang killing nearly everyone. A flashback shows a man in a treetop licking his lips at his prey. The target, a large man, trips over a rock, amusingly clumsy for his size. Begging to reach the top 90, the man faces Sagwang, who raises his hand and crushes his head like a zit, uninterested in looting, only wanting his name known. On day 3, Seowon gets a notification. Stunned by the overnight death toll, hoping to avoid Sagwang. He muses that if this continues, he might reach the top 10, wondering about the announced rewards, possibly money, items, or even using game skills in the real world. He sighs, chastising himself for getting ahead while a killer roams. Feeling mana within, he finds a magic book from yesterday's loot, the Magic Book of Wind Ball, which creates wind spheres based on the user's power. He activates it, and the book vanishes, imprinting the spell in his mind. Chanting Scroll magic, he gathers mana in his palm, forming 4 wind balls. Doubting their strength, he flicks his hand, sending them floating back until they hit a wall, causing a massive explosion. He remarks that it's far more powerful than it appears, suggesting it'll prove useful, but he's puzzled by the sudden wave of exhaustion, guessing it's due to using magic. As time moves forward, the restricted zone starts showing up on his map, and the grid contracts. He chooses to farm resources while sticking to the boundary's edges. His odds of encountering another player should be lower since half are already eliminated, and he needs to act fast to gather resources before the restricted area tightens further. From a treetop, an old man observes him silently, unmoving, watching as he travels along the path. The old man mutters, "This is quite intriguing," before leaping forward. A time skip takes us to half a day later. He recalls spotting houses in this area on the map, but is shocked to find only loot crates scattered across the ground, stained with blood. Hearing footsteps behind him, he panics. He triggers a wind ball and hurls it toward the sound, blasting the door apart. He questions if it was just the wind, noting he sensed someone's presence. Peering through the shattered door, he's stunned by the sight of blood everywhere. He assumes whoever was there must be wounded, reasoning that their survival this long means they likely have valuable gear. Since they're weakened, he considers taking them out to claim their items, but ultimately prioritizes his own survival and leaves. From the other side of the door, after he's gone, a man speaks, asking if he's left, saying, "Thank heavens." He's relieved he hid quickly, or he'd have been killed, though he believes he could have handled the situation easily, if not injured. He plans to grab loot and escape, but is suddenly struck by an arrow to the side of his head, realizing he's been baited. As his body fades, Seowoon, watching from a distance, thanks him for falling into the trap. He vows to farm swiftly and head to the restricted zone's edges. Then, the old man from earlier remarks that Seowoon seems quite skilled. Seowoon, caught off guard, realizes he lowered his defenses. The old man reassures him, saying there's no need for fear, he only wants to ask some questions. Seowoon must be full of thoughts. Seowoon asks who he is, and the old man replies that even if he shared his identity, it wouldn't mean much since they come from different worlds. Seowoon notes that he stands out compared to everyone else he's encountered. The old man inquires if he's been in this kind of game before. Seowoon, confused, asks what he means by game, and the old man explains he's been observing him for some time, noting how quickly he adapted and suspecting he knows this isn't reality. Seowoon wonders how long he's been watched and why he didn't notice. He admits it's his first time here but mentions playing a similar game in his own world. The old man finds this fascinating, and Seowoon remarks that the old man's appearance clearly shows he's from a different world. The old man notes it's getting dark, and Seowoon agrees, pointing out it's already the third day. The old man asks if the moon in Seowoon's world is as large as this one. Seowoon, not having noticed its size, says no, this one is massive, and the old man agrees. He then asks Seowoon to describe the game he mentioned. Seowoon hesitates, warning that this spot is vulnerable to ambushes. The old man suggests it might be a lengthy discussion and proposes moving elsewhere. Seowoon questions how he can trust he won't be attacked. The old man grabs him, assuring him he knows better, but warns him to stay silent to avoid becoming a target. With that, he leaps from tree to tree, carrying Seowoon with ease, moving so fast that Seowoon's cheeks flap in the wind. Seowoon reflects that he had no clue then what their meeting would lead to. That night, in a different location, the old man, after some explanation, comments that Seowoon's world sounds highly magical. Seowoon struggles to describe it, calling it a place of advanced civilization. The old man says this explains his quick adjustment to this place. Seowoon wonders again how long he's been watched. The old man reveals he's been with him since they were dropped here. Seowoon jokingly asks if he's reading his mind. The old man explains he'd planned to relax in the high mountains for the next 100 days, but grew curious about Seowoon's actions. He assures Seowoon he means no harm and only approached out of curiosity about why they're here. Seowoon admits he doesn't know. The old man mentions something similar exists in his world. Seowoon clarifies it's just a form of play meant for fun, where no one truly dies. He adds that he can't fathom the motives of supernatural beings capable of pulling people from other worlds. The old man nods, and Seowoon continues, suggesting the game is a massive opportunity for someone. The old man asks what he means, and Seowoon explains that dying here isn't permanent death. Players receive a rank and rewards based on their performance, likely the items they collect. The old man asks if he means the gear he's carrying, and Seowoon adds that it includes skills and martial arts learned here, though he has no proof yet. The old man finds magic intriguing and questions if this is truly an opportunity. Seowoon insists that while the old man may not need it, for those struggling in their worlds, these abilities could be life-changing. The old man asks why he assumes his life is free of struggles. Seowoon points out he seems like a martial arts master, likely with followers in his world, unlike someone like him, who feels useless in his own. That's why he sees this as a huge opportunity for the struggling. The old man bursts into loud laughter, saying Seowoon says fascinating things, and Seowoon urges him to quiet down. The old man then asks what he's doing by gesturing at the air, and Seowoon realizes he doesn't know how to access the map. He shares tips and tricks useful for this world, while the old man recounts tales of his own. Morning arrives quickly. The old man taps the ground lightly, noting it's morning, and he may have taken too much of Seowoon's time as he sets him down. Seowoon insists it's fine, as staying with him is likely the safest option. He enjoyed the old man's stories, and the old man, having learned about this game from Seowoon, wonders if there's a way to repay him. Seowoon asks if he could learn some of the old man's martial arts to survive until the end, needing his help. The old man pauses, then says it's not impossible, sparking hope in Seowoon. But he warns that it comes with great risk, possibly death. Seowoon asks what he means, and the old man explains that succeeding unconventionally requires a steep price, and asks if he's ready. Seowoon, reiterating that death here isn't real, prompts the old man to agree that this method might work. Seowoon asks if it'll make him stronger, and the old man says it's worth a try. Seowoon asks what to do, and the old man says he'll first check his inner energy, placing a palm on his head. Shocked, he says Seowoon's inner energy is weaker than his dog's, asking how he's so frail. Seowoon explains his world lacks martial arts or inner energy. The old man instructs him to sit in the lotus position, still holding his head like a ball. He warns of pain so intense he won't be able to move, telling him to endure it or face death. As he transfers energy, Seowoon's senses heighten. The wind feels like blades, breathing like poison, and he hears ants crawling. A sharp pain surges from his lower dantian to the upper, and he screams as energy beams shoot from his mouth and eyes, wondering if this is his end as he sweats profusely. Everything seems to freeze as the old man implants something in him. In reality, Seowoon is drenched in sweat until the old man declares it's done. Seowoon holds back vomit before letting it out. The old man, impressed by his endurance, says his body isn't bad and has potential. Once his energy flow is fixed, he'll feel different. Seowoon asks what's next, and the old man reminds him of his desire to grow strong quickly. He explains he pushed Seowoon's soul slightly to create an inspiratory gate, allowing him to absorb special energy beyond just breathing. Seowoon asks what's changed, and the old man explains that mind, body, and soul are bound by life energy. He asks what happens to that energy upon death. Seowoon guesses it vanishes, but the old man corrects him. Using a real-world example of a water droplet falling from a leaf, he explains that life energy doesn't disappear, it disperses, absorbed by nature to continue the life cycle. Some, however, see this cycle as wasteful and kill to absorb others' life energy, but this destabilizes their yin and yang, leading to loss of martial arts or death. The technique he gave Seowoon allows him to absorb scattered life energy to boost his inner energy. Seowoon worries this guarantees death, but the old man clarifies that Seowoon's lack of inner energy makes him a blank slate, so he tweaked his veins to absorb life energy harmoniously, explaining why this forbidden technique from Yongyuan works here. Seowoon attributes it to the game's rules, and the old man appreciates his quick thinking. He sensed life energy lingering where people died, noting the technique's flaw: it thrives on killing. But here, eliminating others is part of survival, and by the end of 100 days, Seowoon could reach a high level. The old man says it's time to part, hoping to meet again. Seowoon asks for his name, grateful for his help. The old man introduces himself as Jang Dakian, known as the Deep Valley, and reveals the technique is called the White Martial Physique Arts. Seowoon bows, expressing that he'll always remember this moment. The elder instructs him to practice deep breathing and to keep building inner energy through his dantian, promising gradual strength gains. He then unfolds the map as he'd shown him, noting its convenience and saying they'll meet again when the time comes. Seowoon agrees, watching as the elder departs, gliding swiftly through the sky. He remarks that the elder disappeared quickly, as expected, and muses that mastering the same Kwangong movement techniques would let him travel with ease. He resolves to head back to the outskirts as intended. Though he was whisked to the center instantly, the return trek takes half a day. We see him crouched in bushes outside a lit-up house. He notes it's like before: either the house is empty, or it's occupied by a novice who forgot to douse the lights. Either way, he's going in. He sprints toward the house, enters, and cautiously checks corners, methodically clearing each room. The upstairs light flicks off, and he mutters that he was right, it's time to scavenge some loot. But after searching, he curses, saying it's all junk, just a minor healing scroll and some jerky, making the trip a waste. Yawning, he admits he's exhausted from talking with the elder all night and decides to rest. He sleeps soundly on the floor, and the scene shifts to day 5. Still asleep, he's roused by footsteps and a voice declaring the house isn't empty. Seowoon realizes someone's just outside and quietly grabs his crossbow, cursing his vulnerability. He positions himself by the door. As it opens, a man enters, relieved to rest, only to freeze at the sight of Seowoon's crossbow. Seowoon fires, but the man slices the bolt with his sword. Seowoon groans, annoyed to face a martial artist, and reaches into a subspace to pull out throwing knives using the Black Star technique. The man blocks one with his arm, calling Seowoon a coward for using concealed weapon. Seowoon closes in, seizes the man's head, and slams him to the floor, kicking his sword away. He snaps that his pleasant dream was interrupted. Raising the crossbow bolt, Seowoon ignores the man's pleas to spare him, offering anything in exchange for his life, insisting he can't die after struggling so much. Seowoon drives the bolt into the man's forehead. The kill feed pops up, revealing the man's name as Ung, killed by an arrowhead shot. Seowoon declares he won't die here either. Noticing a green aura from the man's chest, he recognizes it as the life key Dakian mentioned. As it envelops his hand, warmth surges through him, his body brimming with strength. He confirms its inner energy, feeling lighter and stronger despite absorbing just one life key. Checking his status window, he sees inner energy now listed as a stat, wondering if it's level 20 thanks to the man's energy. He praises Dakian's gift and vows not to rely solely on kills to gather life key, seeking other methods. Checking the player count, he's shocked to see only 24 players remain on day 5. As he watches, the count drops in real time. Someone just died. The kill feed shows Sagwang eliminating someone named Carl. The scene shifts to Carl's final moments, calling out to Sagwang before fading into a chest. Sagwang grumbles that he thought Carl was tough for approaching him, but now his hands are bloodied for nothing. He wonders when this will end, noting he's killed many already. Checking the player count, he sees 23 remain and spots Seowoon's name, recalling it from earlier. Seowoon, aware of Sagwang's kill streak, decides to avoid him at all costs, knowing he barely handled a weaker foe and is far from Sagwang's level. He plans to farm before the restricted zone shrinks. From Ung's chest, he only scores a refined Troll's potion, the rest being junk. He figures if the man had anything valuable, he wouldn't have died so easily. Seowoon chooses to hide and survive until the player count drops further. A week later, on day 12, a werewolf prowls the forest, growling at Seowoon before he kills it with a crossbow shot. He reflects on his early game luck, noting he hasn't looted much due to hiding, and his gear is poor. Staying near the forest borders, he's avoided most enemies, but is tired of jerky. At the storm's edge, he tests it, burning his hand and cursing the pain, realizing he couldn't move inside it. The kill log shows Sagwang dominating, while others seem to be hiding. Noticing a dust cloud in the zone's center, Seowoon guesses a fight is happening. Sagwang, panting, demands to know who his attackers are. They declare they've united to take him down, insisting he can't win and should die quietly. Sagwang scoffs, amused they teamed up against one kid, but says it saves him the trouble of hunting them individually. Since they're ready to kill him, he'll make them face the same fate. He grabs one attacker's head, crushing it, and taunts, "One down." Smearing blood on his face and theirs, he kills another, decapitating him, and cuts through 3 more in a flash. It's not a fight but a slaughter, reflected in the kill log. Sagwang seems unstoppable unless something unexpected occurs. The player count plummets, and Seowoon calls it insane, joking if Sagwang is cheating. Sagwang dismisses his foes as weak, annoyed by the blood's stench, and wonders why they scream instead of dying quietly. As he leaves to clean up, a staff remains in the ground. Another figure approaches, identifying it as Elizabeth Stafford's escrow, vowing to avenge her. With 11 players left, Seowoon aims for the top 10, but knows surviving against Sagwang requires better gear. He notes a mansion will soon be outside the safe zone, likely his last chance to farm. Inside, he marvels at its grandeur, touching a knight statue that requires 110 strength far beyond his 30. He calls it unlucky but searches further, finding an elixir that boosts inner energy, requiring 3 hours to use. He also discovers an unstoppable fist martial art manual, amazed to find such a skill, similar to the circle stone technique, also needing 3 hours to absorb. Stepping forward, he notices an odd sound and spots a cellar, suspecting loot inside. Suddenly, an explosion blasts the wall beside him. Seowoon dives through the hole, escaping the flames, and hides in bushes, certain no one followed him. He recognizes Escrow from the waiting room. Escrow taunts Sagwang, saying his survival wasn't just luck, given his kills. Sagwang, confused, tells him to shut up or fight instead of wasting time. Escrow retorts, eager to see how long Sagwang can keep talking. Seowoon is stunned that Sagwang, the killing machine, is just a kid. Escrow raises his staff, proclaiming himself a master of spells, summoning lightning to strike Sagwang. Sagwang dodges with a backstep, and Escrow mocks how long he can keep evading, urging him to face him like he did Elizabeth. Sagwang evades another strike, declaring he's not just empty boasts, and that he's never encountered anyone like his opponent, even in Zhongyuan. Some of the foe's abilities genuinely make his blood run cold. Asro, furious at Sagwang's dodges, readies a spirit bomb, proclaiming he'll finish him with this move. He hurls it, and it splits into a flurry of lightning strikes he dubs the Lightning Tempest. Sagwang senses the danger and weaves through the onslaught, steadily closing in on Asro. He then springs off the ground, narrowly escaping the final wave of the Lightning Tempest. Asro realizes too late what's happening, as Sagwang soars toward him through the air. Sagwang pulls back his fist, infusing it with ki, but Asro retorts that it won't pierce his barrier and swings his staff, seemingly slicing Sagwang in two. As Sagwang's body begins to fall, it's revealed to be an illusion. Asro admits he didn't see that coming. Then, rain begins to pour, and Seowoon wonders if Asro's magic caused it, marveling at its insanity. Not only did Asro nearly kill Sagwang, but he can also manipulate the weather. His strength is unreal. Asro, unable to sense Sagwang, assumes he's fled far and shouts his name, vowing to hunt and kill him. Deep in the forest, Sagwang, exhausted, admits he may have lost this round but swears Asro won't escape unscathed next time. He'll be the one to end him. For now, though, he needs to rest and heal. Seowoon notes that Asro searched for Sagwang, who eventually slipped away unnoticed, thanks to his cloak, surviving another day. He then announces he's found it, referring to the cellar from earlier, wondering if it holds something valuable or a dungeon with hidden treasure. He opens it, noting it seems deep. He decides to venture inside, as it appears untouched. As he descends, he remarks it was smart to take a lantern from the house he raided yesterday. Hanging it on the wall, he scans the area, spotting heaps of food, realizing it's a food cellar. With so few places to scavenge, he's stunned it's a total bust. His stomach growls, and he admits he was griping earlier about eating only jerky. An hour later, stuffed, he says the meal was great, though some white rice would have made it perfect. He wonders if he should take the elixir now. He mentions the martial arts manual, revealing the unstoppable fist was crafted by a man named Managa in his later years. With a lifetime of combat experience, Managa poured everything into creating an invincible martial art, but with a record of 1,429 fights and 1,429 defeats, he was a laughingstock, and his art faded without disciples. Seowoon quips he grabs some hot dog nonsense from it, figuring it's better than nothing. He decides not to dwell and drinks the elixir first. Hesitant due to the pain from activating the circle stone, he focuses on growing stronger and downs it without further thought. Instantly he feels his dantian surge with inner energy, far surpassing what he absorbed before. He's suddenly drenched in sweat, his movements sluggish, unable to move for 3 hours. 3 hours later, he wonders if it's finally over, noting that staying still for so long is exhausting. He hid in the forest for a week, surviving undetected during the clash of those titans, and he's proud of himself. He decides to sleep, and the cellar's candle flickers out through the night. It's now day 13. Emerging from the cellar, he notes it was definitely near the storm's chaos. Checking the player count, he sees only 10 remain, meaning someone died overnight. It's revealed Dakian took his own life. Seowoon questions how, doubting he'd try a reckless training method just because there's no risk. If not that, he's clueless why Dakian would do it. He's glad to reach the top 10, but this path leaves a sour taste. The zones start closing in, and he says it's time to move. He can't die in a restricted zone after coming this far. As he flees, he vows to stick with a strategy that's kept him alive. For someone like him, skillless, it's the best way to climb higher. Suddenly, he feels heat and turns to see a fireball explode where he stands. Barely unscathed, he wonders where it came from, hoping it's not Asro. On cue, Asro appears from the attack's origin, the blast having obliterated the ground. Asro says his detection spell sensed someone, thinking it was Sagwang, but it's a new face. Seowoon curses himself for using internal energy to move fast, running straight into Asro. What a fool! Asro demands to know Sagwang's whereabouts, threatening to kill him if he doesn't know. Sagwang, watching from hiding, chuckles. Asro warns he'll only spare him if he reveals Sagwang's location, otherwise he's a nuisance to be eliminated. Seowoon snaps that they just metho could he know anything. Then, Sagwang launches a surprise attack, as Asro assumes Seowoon's from a similar region, and, if ignorant, must die. Sagwang hits Asro's barrier, claiming he's fully recovered but senses Asro's low mana. Seowoon, stunned, didn't detect Sagwang at all. Sagwang draws back his fist, declaring he'll end it, and shatters the barrier. Asro scoffs, asking if such a basic attack could harm him, only to be impaled. Sagwang asks if he's heard of enhanced energy, a rare martial art few master, and he never expected to use it here. Asro, honored as the first to witness it, is called Archmage, as Sagwang's hand pierces his throat, blood spraying. Sagwang says Asro's spell-chanting days are over, and making the top 5 was inevitable, so their clash was fated. Meeting him will be Asro's greatest regret. Seowoon, seeing his chance, plans to escape while they're distracted. Sagwang declares he'll finish Asro, and Seowoon is shocked as Sagwang repeatedly drives his hand through Asro's chest, prison shank style. As Asro nears death, Seowoon notes the supposedly invincible Archmage was obliterated. He feels no fear for Sagwang or pity for Asro, just a craving to absorb their life key, sweating at the thought. Sagwang taunts Asro, asking where his earlier arrogance went, and if he has last words, then mocks that he can't speak. Asro's voice enters Sagwang's mind, revealing Elizabeth, his beloved apprentice, was ousted from the academy and unrecognized by the Crane sect for being a woman. He regrets not stopping her. Sagwang denies meeting a woman, suggesting she looked masculine. Asro laughs, a gurgling sound, saying he can finally silence Sagwang's filthy mouth. Sagwang demands clarity, and Seowoon spots clouds parting as a massive fireball meteor descends. Seowoon marvels that Asro summoned a meteor. As it hurtles toward them, Sagwang, fleeing, calls Asro insane for casting it without speaking. Asro explains it's Armageddon, an ultimate spell only an Archmage can cast, using mana and life essence. He reminisces about seeing Elizabeth and wishes to see her again. As he dies, he turns into a chest, and Armageddon detonates in a massive explosion. Someone distant notes only one person could cast that spell. Seowoon, badly wounded, regrets not fleeing sooner, blaming his greed for life key. He refuses a meaningless death, having farmed healing scrolls for this moment. Tearing them open, he barely survives, noting the elixir's power saved him. The pain lingers, and one scroll wasn't enough. Using more, he breathes easier but burns through his stock, vowing to find more. Checking the player count, he sees Asro's death but no life key Gaeda shame. He wonders why Sagwang's not in the death log, suspecting he survived. A weak Sagwang calls for help nearby. Seowoon finds him, reduced to a nugget, struggling to use a scroll with useless limbs. Sagwang begs Seowoon to activate it, but Seowoon recognizes him, having admired his kill log dominance and assumed he'd win. Seeing him like this is ironic. Sagwang promises to make Seowoon the winner if helped, claiming he can't win alone. Seowoon, drawing a blade, says taking Sagwang's items and life key will make him the game's Lubu. Sagwang pleads, warning of stronger players and his martial arts' external origins. Seowoon, revealing his name as Jin Seowoon, stabs Sagwang in the head as he screams his name. Seowoon sighs, feeling guilty as Sagwang resembles a kid, but his eyes widen as life ki pours out, enveloping him like a human elixir, flooding him with inner energy. The player count drops to 8, with Seowoon credited for Sagwang's death. An elf watching remarks that with the tiger dead, foxes will run wild. Seowoon remarks that with this level of energy, he could take on just about anyone. He decides to inspect Sagwang's loot, noting that if he'd had this much internal energy from the beginning, it must have come from someone extraordinary. There's no way Sagwang skipped farming with that kind of power. Plus, it'd sour his mood if he doesn't find anything worthwhile. When he checks the loot, it's exactly what he hoped for, a ring called Kaiser's Band that boosts his agility significantly, Dinger's Band that enhances his strength, Galen's Band for stamina, and Tokar's Band for magic resistance, 2 of those, no less. Seowoon mutters that this guy was only collecting rare items, all while pretending he wasn't decked out in top-tier gear. Then it hits him. He opens his status window to check his stats, exclaiming that they're absolutely wild now, and he's certain he can win. Besides the rings, there are several martial arts manuals, but they all have prerequisites he can't meet yet. Suddenly, he pauses, sensing something, and says to hold on. He thinks he feels someone nearby. He hears a voice casting an escrow-style fireball, and turns just as it slams into his back, flames curling around him. The attacker warns that he shouldn't drop his guard just because he's farming. Since he fell for such a basic ambush, it seems his victory over Sagang was pure luck. Unfazed, Seowoon asks who this guy is, while the attacker is baffled that his fire spell had no effect. Seowoon explains it felt like a breeze passing by, thanks to his 90-point magic resistance. He starts walking toward the guy, who yells at him to stay back, demanding to know what he's planning and threatening a stronger spell if he takes another step. The guy begins channeling a spell right in front of him, and Seowoon doubts it'll do much. The attacker unleashes an explosion directly at Seowoon's chest, the energy swirling around him. Seowoon clenches his fist, pulls it back, and uses the unrestrained fist technique, specifically the piercing fist, striking the guy in the stomach. The blow shatters the attacker's staff and sends a shockwave through his back. The guy coughs up blood and flies backward, crashing into a tree. Seowoon notes they said this martial art always lost, so he had low expectations, but its strength seems to depend on the user's internal energy. The guy keeps coughing up blood and dies on the spot. Now, only 7 remain, and this guy's name was Ziha. Seowoon remarks that with his boosted magic resistance, average spells won't even scratch him. Since Sagang's death, it seems the others who were lying low are emerging, and it's going to be a long night as he darts swiftly through the forest. He says he's at a level where he can at least mimic Dakian's movements, and thanks to that, he might actually pull off a win. An hour later, cloaked, he climbs a tall tree. Someone below shouts for him to stop hiding and face them. Seowoon grumbles that this guy's so loud in the dead of night. The guy taunts that Zihak was a solid mage, and if he's not a coward, they should fight like men. He calls Seowoon a scared little kid, revealing his own name as Stonko. Something then zips toward Stonko from the woods. He barely blocks out an arrow shot with immense force. Stonko calls it a weak move to ambush him and insists on a proper fight. Seowoon wonders who fired the arrow, and Stonko says only one person could put that much aura into it, Zoro-chana. Zoro-ana, as he's called, asks if Stonko knows him, and Stonko confirms it's obvious Zoro-ana's a legendary mercenary, the divine archer, well known in the guild. He suggests they team up to take down the top player, Seowoon. Zoro-ana considers it and jumps down to meet Stonko. Stonko says he made the right call, introducing himself as a notable guild member despite his looks and promising no regrets. Zoro-ana agrees with a simple, "all right." Stonko adds that while Zoro-ana's reputation is huge, his head seems empty. Zoro-ana starts counting, muttering he might have mistimed something. Stonko mocks that an archer shouldn't close the distance himself, then swings his sword down with full force, telling Zoro-ana to die and hand over his items. But something pierces Stonko's skull and pins him to the ground. An arrow Zoro-ana shot into the air, perfectly timed. Zoro-ana says he'd never team up with a lowlife like Stonko, not even a stray dog would bother with him, and he's wasted enough time when he needs to find Seowoon. Seowoon, meanwhile, approaches a treasure chest, noting that with only 6 people left, each life key is valuable. He absorbs the inner energy from it as Zoro-ana turns, seemingly locking eyes with him. Seowoon wonders if his cloak, meant to block detection magic, failed, and maybe Zoro-ana has some unknown skill. But Zoro-ana just calls Stonko a worthless nobody whose items are probably garbage and leaves, unaware of Seowoon. Relieved, Seowoon collapses, saying Zoro-ana's senses are too sharp and that he'll remember his name as his next opponent. The zone starts shrinking faster, and Seowoon feels it closing in with every second. With 6 survivors left and 87 days remaining, it's likely adjusting to the number of players. Exiting the forest, he's surprised to find himself in an open field, noting that fighting here would draw attention from anyone nearby. A strange sound catches his ear, and he turns to see multiple attacks flying at him. He dodges, landing safely, and realizes the magic was aimed precisely at his position. Looking up, he sees a swarm of attacks swirling in the sky and curses. Realizing he can't evade them all, he prepares to fight, trusting his internal energy. Using the Unstoppable Fist Chapter 1 again, he punches forward, shattering every projectile. He wonders if he's stronger than he thought, then crouches and leaps into the air to locate his enemy. He's surprised at how quickly he finds him. The attacker, drained of mana from the assault, is shocked that Seowoon blocked it all and demands to know who he is. Suddenly, the guy gets stabbed in the gut, confused as he didn't sense anything. An assassin appears, saying he should have saved mana for detection or a barrier, as erasing his presence is his specialty. He tells the guy to rest in peace. The attacker fades, leaving 5 survivors. Seowoon lands, and the assassin addresses him, saying he must be Seowoon. Seowoon asks if he knows him, and the assassin replies that everyone Dushi took down Sagwang, the top public enemy. The others are eager to hunt him, and he should just surrender. The assassin charges, and Seowoon meets him head-on. After their clash, blood sprays Seowoon's arm is covered in tiny cuts. The assassin remarks that he expected to slice through him, but Seowoon's tougher than he thought. Seowoon admits that without his internal energy, his arm would have been gone. This guy's strong. The assassin insists Seowoon's death is certain, as he's never failed a night assassination. Seowoon notes he's only fought mages so far, and catches the assassin's mention of the dark. The assassin lowers his arms, saying he'll end it now, and vanishes completely. He reappears behind Seowoon, slicing through him, but it's just an illusion. Seowoon compliments the assassin's stealth, but says it's nothing compared to his cloak of hiding. Grabbing the assassin's wrists, he says he can track his energy at this level. The assassin calls him a coward for attacking from behind, despite that being his own tactic. Seowoon retorts that he's the one who tried to kill him and got caught. He squeezes the assassin's wrists, making him scream, and when the assassin suggests teaming up, Seowoon refuses. Pulling the assassin's arms down, he delivers an upward kick, snapping his spine. Now, only 4 remain. The assassin was Tamaran. Seowoon absorbs their life keys and collects healing scrolls from their drops. He grabs a book from Tamaran's belongings, noting it didn't suit Hema Shadow Clone Manual that creates fighting clones based on internal energy. Seowoon's relieved Tamaran didn't know how to use it, as it could have made the fight much harder. The other guy dropped a grimoire called Carmen's Eyes. The most advanced detection spell, designed to pierce through any stealth ability, is beyond his reach because his circle level is too low to master it. Seowoon mentioned that this must be how his cloak of concealment was seen through. An attack suddenly streaks in from behind, narrowly missing him and cutting his cheek. Seowoon glances at the arrow lodged in the floor, noting that the only archer he knew among the survivors was that guy from earlier. Magic begins to surge toward him at a relentless pace. Seowoon remarks that he's never encountered this kind of magic before, unsure of its source. Still, with no option to flee, he decides to channel his inner energy and unleash the unstoppable fist again to push through. As he swings forward, his punch shatters the incoming magic, sending a shockwave that ripples through the glacier that had formed. Seowoon observes that since 2 attacks hit simultaneously, it must be a coordinated effort by a duo. A figure then materializes behind him, commenting on his impressive strength. Holy, it's Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist. Seowoon steps back, realizing there are actually 3 opponents. It turns out this is the final 4. Shenturk, the Kuzan King, Chiron, the Demon King's right-hand man, previously seen clashing with Escrow, Zurochana, the divine archer they've encountered before, and the ordinary Seowoon. He ponders his next move. They tell Seowoon his luck ends here. Seowoon laments that just when he was so close to victory, he's run into a team-up. The best way to dismantle a team, he thinks, is to create a scenario where they turn on each other. He needs to discern their relationships, but he's never seen them before. Chiron greets Shenturk, saying it's a pleasure to see him. Shenturk snaps, questioning why a black magician would address a king so casually. Chiron chuckles, apologizing for his lack of decorum, but pointing out that something outweighs status here, teaming up for greater rewards. Seowoon wonders if their alliance wasn't planned, but Shenturk declares they must first deal with Seowoon's troublesome presence. Chiron agrees, calling it a simple task for someone of his caliber. As he extends his hand, a massive golden aura radiates, blinding Seowoon. When he cautiously opens his eyes, he sees a miniature sun hovering above them. Chiron taunts that there's nowhere left for him to hide. Shenturk admits Chiron's cleverer than he thought. Seowoon realizes he hadn't considered this tactic, as his cloak only works in darkness, exposing a loophole he overlooked. Chiron thanks Sag Wang for eliminating that bothersome escrow, adding that he can't say it directly, but it's the rule of this land. Now, it's Seowoon's turn to perish in the Demon King's name. Chiron begins casting a purple tornado with his left hand, naming it the Chaos Blade. Seowoon recalls that most mages are vulnerable up close, so if he can close the distance, he might disrupt Chiron's casting. He resolves to make this a close-quarters fight. Charging forward, Chiron calls him foolish, urging him to accept death. Attacks fly at Seowoon, but he doesn't dodge, rushing straight through while cloaking himself in as much internal energy as possible to minimize damage. He's determined to break through, no matter the cost. Cuts appear all over his body, and his cloak is torn to the point that its abilities are unusable without repair. Seowoon notes that the internal energy shielding him is faltering, and now his cloak is useless too. Chiron claims this attack should shred him completely, leaving no trace. As the onslaught continues, Seowoon summons the unstoppable fist again, stomping forward and bursting out of the Chaos Blade, drenched in blood. With his fist raised, he charges. The guy's covered in his own blood. Chiron calls him cocky, insisting he has no chance and should surrender. Casting another spell, Chaos Deadman's hands erupt from the ground, aiming for Seowoon. Seowoon remarks that this mage is on another level compared to others he's faced. He clasps his hands, summoning a shadow clone to absorb the hits for him. Chiron, surprised, thought Seowoon only knew how to throw punches, not use shadow clone magic. Seowoon declares this is his victory. Chiron stammers, muttering about a barrier. Shenturk smirks, using an ability called Piercing Aura, stabbing through Chiron's chest and hitting Seowoon too. Chiron turns, chastising Shenturk for such a cowardly act, unbefitting a king. Shenturk retorts that victory is the greatest honor, and he never promised to work with Chiron, though he's grateful for him removing the trash. A message appears, confirming Chiron's death. Shenturk then declares it's just the two of them now. He tells Zurochana that Seowoon was a thorn in their army's side, and it's ironic he ended up aiding them. Shenturk and Zurochana laugh, but Zurochana says it's too soon to claim victory. Shenturk, confused, asks what he means as Seowoon, still alive, lands a direct hit to Shenturk's face, sending him spinning. The blow is so powerful that Shenturk's armor shatters and he crashes into the cliff below Zurochana. Seowoon, panting, says he's finally reached the top. Zurochana, assuming Seowoon died to Shenturk's blade, realizes it was a shadow clone. Seowoon tells him to quit talking and fight. Zurochana remarks that everyone's so impatient, but it seems he has more urgent business with Shenturk first. Shenturk, still alive, says they're both infuriating him. He can't believe Seowoon destroyed his master-crafted Imperial armor, quite a feat. Seowoon retorts that Shenturk's talking too much, asking if they'll fight one-on-one or gang up on him. Shenturk warns that Seowoon will regret making him go all out. Leaving an afterimage, Shenturk moves swiftly. Seowoon notes, "This guy's fast." Shenturk closes the gap instantly, piercing Seowoon's arm with his rapier. Shenturk boasts that no one can overcome his speed, targeting Seowoon's ligaments to disable his arm, noting that his technique requires both hands. Seowoon, thrown off by Shenturk's non-strength-based style, refuses to lose after coming so far. Trusting his inner energy, he swings down, snapping Shenturk's rapier with his bare hand. Shenturk, outraged, demands to know how he dares. Seowoon grabs the broken blade in his arm, using the Black Star Arts to hurl it back, slicing Shenturk's cheek. Shenturk, furious about his face being marred, watches as Seowoon tears a healing scroll, instantly mending his wounds. Shenturk can't believe Seowoon's tenacity, reforming his blade with aura. He acknowledges Seowoon for forcing him to use his aura blade. Seowoon says that with his arm healed, he's ready to fight back. Clasping his hands, he summons a shadow clone and expends all his internal energy to create an army of himself. Shenturk calls these tricks annoying, but insists he always wins. Seowoon, now serious, tells him to brace himself. Zurochana, observing, wonders if one of them can just die already, yawning as only 3 remain. Seowoon tells him he's about to start, and Shenturk snaps that he's the one who won't stop talking. Shenturk's aura blade has a 2-minute duration, so he must finish quickly. Seowoon's inner energy is nearly depleted, so he's also racing against time. They charge at each other. Seowoon and his clones surround Shenturk, who thrusts towards Seowoon's head. Seowoon dodges, striking Shenturk's back with a palm. Shenturk swings, calling him a slippery bastard, slicing a shadow clone in half. Shenturk, unable to feel his hits connect, realizes it was a clone and vows to cut them all down without bothering to find the real one. He gets punched in the face and staggers, wondering if that was the real Seowoon. Seowoon asks how it feels to be hit by a slippery bastard, adding that Shenturk should stop trying to find the real body since his clones can attack just as effectively as the original. Two clones attack in unison with the unstoppable fist, forcing Shenturk to backpedal. Now airborne, Shenturk goes on the offensive, using his piercing aura to rapidly strike the clones, killing two instantly. Landing, he mocks their weak durability. Only 5 clones remain, and he has about 1 minute left with his aura blade. Zurokana, watching from above, is surprised Shenturk is struggling this much. Shenturk yells at him to stop standing there and help, promising any reward if they win. Zurochana tells him to focus, as Seowoon closes in. Shenturk uses his piercing aura again, but Seowoon sidesteps and counters with an unstoppable fist palm strike, hitting Shenturk's sword as he blocks. The sword steams from the impact, and Seowoon is surprised it held. Shenturk shouts that he's got him, piercing through Seowoon's chest, blood spraying. But it's another clone fading away. Shenturk, exasperated, calls this ridiculous, realizing he's been toyed with and humiliated. Laughing, he says he no longer cares about winning, only tearing Seowoon apart. Zurokana calls him the King of Madness, as Shenturk unleashes his full aura, instantly closing the gap and killing 2 more clones. Piercing toward another, he notes only 2 remain, the real Seowoon and 1 clone. As they charge, Seowoon dodges a piercing fist, while the other Seowoon lands a blow through Shenturk's chest. Seowoon says his attack connected, but Shenturk stabs him in the head, realizing there's no sensation, it's another clone. Only the original Seowoon remains. As Shenturk levels his blade at Seowoon, he declares he'll finish this with 1 decisive blow. Seowoon, pushed to his breaking point, charges forward alongside Shenturk to settle the duel. This time, Seowoon doesn't evade Shenturk's thrust, but instead delivers a swift kick to his hand. Shenturk remarks that Seowoon's hand-to-hand skills are impressive, and challenges him to block his next move, summoning the last of his aura blade to form a crackling lightning shape. Shenturk drives his blade into Seowoon's leg, sending a jolt of electricity coursing through him. Seowoon groans in pain as Shenturk smirks, believing victory is his. Seowoon collapses backward onto the ground, and Shenturk swiftly closes the distance. Seowoon pleads for him to hold off, warning that Zoroana is the only one profiting from their fight. Unfazed, Shenturk plunges his blade into Seowoon's chest, unleashing all his remaining aura until it dissipates entirely. He mutters that he barely managed to win within his skill's time frame, noting that any delay would have cost him the fight. But then he pauses, sensing something off Seowoon's body didn't feel real. Suddenly, Seowoon materializes right behind him, seizing Shenturk's head and crushing it with brutal force, evoking Omniman-like intensity. Seowoon admits that without wearing Shenturk down with his clones, he would have been defeated. Now, only 2 survivors remain. Seowoon claims Shenturk's loot and life key to absorb. Zoroana, observing, admits he didn't expect Seowoon to defeat Shenturk and suggests he should be grateful, as Shenturk was a formidable nuisance. He notes that Shenturk's obsessive drive forced even a king like himself to expend everything in their clash, leaving him vulnerable. For this, Zoroana vows to grant Seowoon an honorable death, loosing an arrow that streaks through the air. Seowoon marvels at the immense life key he absorbs, noting that while it doesn't match what he gained from Sagwang, it's enough to challenge Zoroana. As he watches the arrow sail past, Seowoon employs his shadow clone again, vaulting from the cliff's base up to Zoroana. Zoroana mocks the repetitive clone tactic but chuckles as he fires another arrow, which cuts through the clones and strikes Seowoon in the leg, causing him to stumble backward. The other clones vanish. Seowoon hits the ground, and Zoroana descends, vowing to ensure he can't escape this time. Seowoon cries out in defiance as Zoroana shoots an arrow into one hand, then the other. Seowoon demands to know how Zoroana identified the real him. Zoroana laughs, admitting it was a mere guess. Seowoon, incredulous, asks if he's serious. Zoroana praises his persistence, offering respect for reaching this point. Seowoon retorts that he can keep his respect for the dogs. As the next arrow is released, Seowoon feels it pierce his skull, marking his official death by an arrow to the head. Zoroana wonders if it's truly over as time begins to fade. Seowoon's body vanishes, leaving a chest behind, signaling the end of the Cloyd Survival game. Seowoon, reflecting, laments that he did all the work only for someone else to claim the reward, though he acknowledges exploiting Sagwang's vulnerability. The system congratulates him for reaching second place, earning him the right to join the next game. It confirms he's secured 140 coins, including kill bonuses. Seowoon, curious about the coin's purpose, summons his acquired items, discovering each has a tradable value system he finds incredibly cool. The Shadow Clone ability costs 130 coins, nearly his entire stash, leaving him wondering why it's so pricey. The system also informs him that the top 5 survivors get to spin a roulette for a random item. Seowoon, amused at the gacha-like mechanic, notes that as second-place finisher, he gets 2 spins. He hopes for the Cloak of Hiding or Shadow Clone to save coins. Watching the roulette, it passes Shadow Clone on the first spin. Preparing for the second, he shouts for it to stop, hoping he timed it right. Instead, he lands Escrow's necklace, one of the cheapest items. Frustrated, he curses his luck, but takes heart in having one more chance. He prays to any deity listening as the roulette spins again, passing the subspace ring. Fearing another miss, he's stunned when it lands on Shadow Clone, the most expensive item, worth nearly double his coins. The system hands over his items, noting he can spend coins on additional purchases before being transferred. Seowoon, thrilled at securing Shadow Clone, saves coins but agonizes over tempting offers before finalizing his choices. The system wishes him luck for the next game. A bright light engulfs Seowoon, and he finds himself warped to an alley in Korea, marveling that he's returned. He glances at the subspace ring on his finger, confirming it's real as he equips it, muttering, "This isn't a dream." Grabbing his bag from the ground, he reflects that his first game has concluded. Outwardly unchanged, he senses a profound shift within. Relieved to escape studying, he notes the ring and the system's mention of a second game, with 30 coins left to prepare. Having narrowly missed first place, he's determined to claim it next time. His parents secured him a studio apartment near school for studying, but his focus now is on growing stronger with his game items, not playing the next round unprepared. Feeling for his inner energy, he finds it depleted from the final battle. Unable to kill to absorb vitality here, he recalls Dakian's teachings on cultivation to recover energy. Dakian explained that cultivating inner energy is standard, and once Seowoon forms an energy core, focusing on it should allow natural accumulation. It's slower than absorbing vitality through kills, but consistent cultivation could lead to mastery. Seowoon wonders if training could make him as strong as Dakian. Dakian, chuckling, noted his boldness and cautioned against overreaching, though he allowed that Seowoon might be a hidden gem, only proven through effort. 4 hours later, Seowoon, still cultivating, grumbles that he's barely gathered any energy. Frustrated, he opens his eyes, declaring the process too slow compared to the gamite could take years. Deciding not to waste time, he organizes his items, pulling out martial arts manuals and wishing for better ones. He wonders if he must train them gradually, like inner energy, meaning strength won't come quickly. The manual prompts if he'd like to learn it, startling him as it functions like in the game. A flash of light fills his bedroom, and he practices his unstoppable fist techniques, noting they're weaker without full inner energy, but still authentic. Rummaging further, he finds Escrow's necklace, recalling it's pure gold. Biting it, he confirms its authenticity, estimating it's worth at least 10 million won. If he brings back 10 such items next game, he could make 100 million instantly, despite their low in-game value. He then examines refined troll's blood, which promises a year of health for its drinker. He brought it back for its potential to fetch a high price from a wealthy, terminally ill buyer, making the Cloyd Survival a massive opportunity. Realizing he ate only jerky in-game, Seowoon heads to Grandma's diner for a meal set, a luxury he craved while surviving on jerky. Savoring plain white rice, he reflects that it's been ages since he enjoyed it. The diner's owner, presumably Grandma, teases him for returning so soon and warns against crying, as it'll ruin his appetite. Seowoon insists the food's deliciousness overwhelmed him and thanks her. She tells him to finish his plate and ask for more if needed. He confirms that in-game time differs from reality. Thanking her again, she urges him to return. Wondering when the next game begins, he knows he must gather more inner energy and examines another item, the Ring of Strength. Slipping it on, he feels his body lighten instantly. Crouching, he leaps over buildings, marveling at his overflowing strength. Landing, he hopes no one saw, fearing online exposure would be a hassle. If game items work this well, he regrets not building more inner energy first. He pulls out the Elixir of Insight, the priciest item he bought. Drinking it, he's immobilized for 3 hours, feeling his insides burn as his eyes glow brightly. The potion slips from his grasp and shatters on the floor, spilling some of its contents. 3 hours later, he's back to normal, though he's feeling unwell. Outside his room, there's smoke in the air. Neighbors mention that the walls feel unusually warm. They tried knocking on his door, but the handle was too hot to touch. Given the heat, they should have called the fire department instead of the police. An elderly woman insists it was scorching, but there was no fire. The officers suggest leaving it alone, speculating that the boiler might have been turned up too high. She argues it's far too hot for that. One cop, skeptical, reaches for the door handle and quickly pulls back, cursing, "Damn, this thing's burning." She retorts that she warned him. He asks if anyone's inside, mentioning they got a report and need to open the door, calling out for a response since they're there to help. The door swings open, and Seowoon asks who's there. They explain they received a report about a possible fire. Drenched in sweat, Seowoon says he's just feverish, admitting he cranked up the boiler a bit, and points out that if it were a fire, the fire department would be there, not the police. The officers note they have to respond to complaints and ask if he needs an ambulance. Seowoon brushes it off as a minor cold, saying he'll recover with rest. They nod, say they're leaving, and tell the old woman not to call for trivial matters like this, as it causes unnecessary trouble. She insists she was genuinely alarmed. Seowoon retreats inside, muttering that he nearly died. The elixir's power surged like a blaze, and without his physique arts, he wouldn't have contained it. He feels that, unlike in the game, using these items in reality carries strange risks. Still, it was worth it. Raising his hand, he unleashes his unstoppable fist, a palm strike that sends a gust of air through the room, instantly shattering his chair. He mutters that he needs to sell some items he brought back to at least afford a new chair. The next day, he heads to a gym, saying to himself that to truly refine his unstoppable fist, he needs physical training beyond this point. He arrives, only to find the place packed during the day, so he decides to wait until after sunset. Then he notices a group of high school delinquents. He silently hopes he doesn't have to fight them, as that would be awkward. As they pass, one kid is smoking, and an old man scolds him, pointing out it's a no-smoking zone and that it's an issue for someone so young to smoke. The kid snaps back, asking what he's on about, saying even his parents don't care. The old man retorts that if his parents didn't teach him better, they failed as parents. The delinquent demands to know who he thinks he is. Seowoon, sensing trouble, mutters he has a bad feeling. The kid raises his fist to strike the old man but gets a swift kick to the face, his body tumbling backward, crashing through a table. Seowoon, shocked, says that no matter how rude the kid was, he can't just attack an elder like that. Some students turn, shouting for someone named Mihik, who they came to meet. Seowoon glances over, and Mihik, towering over him, says they've never met and asks if he's looking to die. Seowoon admits this got more complicated than he intended. The injured student lies bloodied on the ground, and Mihik demands to know if Seowoon did it. Seowoon explains the kid caused trouble first, showing no respect for the elderly and even trying to attack the old man. He adds that if high schoolers smoke in public, they need to know it can lead to serious trouble. If Mihik is his older brother, he should teach him better. Seowoon acknowledges he might have gone too far but had no choice to protect the elder. Mihik, enraged, launches a surprise attack, but Seowoon dodges. Deciding to teach him a lesson, Seowoon strikes with a piercing fist to Mihik's stomach, sending him flying, blood spewing from his mouth. Seowoon realizes he forgot to control his strength. Mihik, still standing, pulls out a butterfly knife, showing off its new skin. Seowoon remarks that the brothers are alike, both reckless. Mihik charges, swinging the knife, but Seowoon sidesteps, noting that fighting ordinary people is too easy for him. He sweeps Mihik's legs, knocking him down, and reminds himself to control his strength to avoid seriously harming the kid. Using only 50% power, he delivers a palm strike, the air pressure alone sending Mihik crashing into a tree. Seowoon winces, knowing the kid likely has internal injuries. As Mihik collapses, kids nearby record the scene on their phones. Seowoon, frustrated, says this wasn't his intention and mocks Mihik's dramatic fall, asking if he's an action movie star. He approaches the younger brother delivering another kick and tells Mihik to respect elders, stop smoking, and avoid carrying dangerous knives. As students call out to the younger brother, Dongjun, who's unresponsive, they fear he's dead. Seowoon, panicking, wonders what he was thinking, showing off against regular people. If they die, his life is ruined. Despite learning his skills easily thanks to game items, he needs proper training to control them. He heads home. A month later, in his apartment, Seowoon sits cross-legged, circulating his QI. His phone rings, snapping him out of it. His mother asks if he's eaten. He says he has, and she mentions she was worried because he wasn't answering. She asks about the academy he enrolled in. Seowoon, hiding that he's training in martial arts instead of studying, says it's manageable. He asks about his father, having heard he got a new delivery job. She reveals that's why she called his father was in a car accident while making deliveries, hit by a car that ran a red light. The injuries are severe, and while they didn't skimp on insurance, the surgery costs are high, and she's worried. She feels guilty asking, knowing she hasn't sent much allowance, but wonders if he has any money left from what she sent. He asks how much the surgery costs, and she estimates 1 or 2 million. He reassures her, saying he has a solution, and asks if she's okay. She says she is and apologizes for burdening him while he's busy studying. He tells her it's fine and promises to call back. Reflecting, he recalls how his parents moved from one rented home to another, his father working harder than anyone but earning less as he aged, his job easily replaceable. Seowoon admits he was once a freeloading child, a hopeless burden with no future, and he despises that version of himself. But he refuses to remain that way. He enters a jewelry store, asking how much he can get for an escrow necklace. The clerk notes its exceptional craftsmanship, unlike anything local. Seowoon claims it's been in his family for 5 generations. She agrees the styling isn't modern and asks if he wants to sell it there, estimating it could be worth more than its gold content. He explains his father needs emergency surgery, admitting it's not ideal to sell but his situation is urgent. She points out he likely doesn't have a certificate of authenticity. He leaves, and she wishes him a good day. Checking his finances on his phone, he notes gold prices have risen recently. After sending money to his parents, he has enough to get by. The clerk's excitement makes him think he might have undersold it, but he shrugs it off, needing quick cash. He resolves to find better ways to sell game items in the future. He calls his mother to confirm he sent the money. She asks where he got so much, worried he took a loan. He assures her he couldn't get a loan without a proper job, claiming it's savings from part-time work in the army. She and his father apologize, and he tells her not to worry, promising to visit the hospital soon. On the train home, he overhears students debating if a video is fake, calling it obvious CG, likely filmed secretly. The video shows a kid in the woods casting an escrow spell. Seowoon instantly recognizes it as a spell from Cloyd Survival, realizing he's not the only one in Korea who's experienced that game. The video gets deleted, and the students note it's been happening all day. Seowoon reflects that he had no idea then what consequences would arise if others had the same opportunity. Simultaneously, a man is on a phone call, saying they'll cut off the internet nationwide if needed, and promising to handle it immediately. Hanging up, he mentions the uploader is Korean and demands to know what happened. His subordinate explains that the number of survivors has surged, making it nearly impossible to track them. Furious, the man throws an ashtray, hitting the subordinate's head, and demands to know why the number of agents hasn't increased if survivors are multiplying. He orders them to find the attention-seeking uploader. Bleeding, the subordinate agrees. The man warns that if he gets blood on the carpet, he'll kill him. The subordinate uses Cloyd Survival magic to heal, and the man mocks their weakness, questioning if they can even catch the survivors. He snaps at them to get moving, adding, "There's no carpet in the room," wondering what the subordinate was thinking. Seowoon notes that after summer's heat faded, the night breeze turned chilly. Since the first game, he's been training at night when no one's around for 2 months. He's amassed a considerable amount of internal energy and has grown more adept at wielding it. However, the main challenge he faces right now, as he attempts to conjure his shadow clone, is evident when it appears beside him. Both he and the clone execute a technique from the unstoppable fist known as spatial strike. Seowoon notes that this is the issue he mentioned earlier, can only summon a single shadow clone, and its duration is quite brief. As they dash through the forest, they suddenly veer toward each other, their fists colliding and unleashing shockwaves. The clone begins to dissipate. Seowoon, exhausted, admits this is his current limit. When he battled Shen Turk, he effortlessly controlled 8 shadow clones as he pleased. Perhaps he depleted too much inner energy in that fight, leaving his current state disappointingly weak. He rises, declaring he can't keep dwelling on it. He decides to head home and cultivate further. Feeling hungry after training, he wonders what he stored in his subspace. As he reaches for it, a brilliant light engulfs him. Suddenly, it's daytime, and he finds himself back in Cloyd Survival. He remarks that some people around him seem as bewildered as he was before, wondering if he's finally entered another game after 2 months. A status window thanks him for joining and announces the start of the tutorial explanation. Seowoon is puzzled, noting that the tutorial was skipped last time, suggesting there are far more newcomers this round. He notices someone perched atop a statue, dressed in clothes clearly belonging to a high school student. It seems another Korean is participating. The kid gazes down at them, and Seowoon comments that he's likely aura farming, which feels a bit embarrassing. The kid has clearly played these games before, and Seowoon hopes he's not a formidable opponent like Sag Wang. An announcement states that with 200 players, the game will now begin. The map, called the Valley of Contrast, will distribute rewards starting from rank 20, and all 200 players can pass. Seowoon is slightly irritated, noting there's no risk of failure, but decides he'll play this game with ruthless intensity. After the tutorial covers familiar information, an unexpected announcement reveals this is a duo game. Caught off guard, Seowoon listens as the tutorial instructs him to find a partner he trusts and register as a duo. The game will continue until one team remains, and even if only one teammate survives, both will receive the reward. If he doesn't form a team within 5 minutes, he'll compete solo. Seowoon reflects that there are indeed more players this time, which explains the duo format. Everyone appears to be meeting for the first time, so what basis do they have for choosing partners? A poor choice could result in a useless teammate. Seowoon recalls the high schooler, who didn't seem like a novice, and could be valuable, but when he looks at the statue, the kid is gone. He wonders if he already found a partner. Deciding to find anyone available, Seowoon approaches several people, only to discover they've already paired up. Time and again, he faces the same issue. He mutters that there must be someone without a duo, but he can't spot them in the crowd. Resigned, he declares that whether facing a solo player or a duo, he'll eliminate them all and win on day one. The environment shifts dramatically. He observes scattered villages in the valley, ideal for farming, and picks a landing spot. Gliding down, he vows to land first and take out anyone who follows. Upon landing, he immediately looks up, spotting 3 teams, and sprints toward a building. He reflects that after the first game he replayed it countless times in his mind and ran numerous mental simulations for this second game. He's been waiting for this moment and is executing his plan. A guy wanders through the woods, confused and nauseous, wondering where his teammate James landed. Seowoon emerges behind him, launching a sneak attack with spatial strike, shattering the guy's barrier. The guy demands to know why he's being attacked, and Seowoon declares one opponent down. He rears back and delivers a punch called Bone Shatter to the guy's stomach, causing him to spit up blood profusely. The guy collapses, and the system indicates he's only knocked out, requiring a final strike before his teammate can revive him. Seowoon appreciates this mechanic and places his foot on the guy's skull, but senses something behind him. Turning, he sees an attack from James incoming. Seowoon dodges, but James charges, slamming him with a shield. Seowoon notes the danger, recognizing James as the guy's teammate with impressive strength. James asks if Seowoon killed his comrade, and Seowoon observes that James excels in close combat. He reflects that the unstoppable fist, reliant on bare hands, requires careful strategy against opponents with weapons like bows, spears, or swords, which are difficult to counter in reality. He's only practiced this technique through mental training, but the prospect of testing it in-game excites him. Smiling, he stands and says, "This'll be fun." James charges directly at him, and Seowoon prepares, shifting his weight to his back foot. He surges forward, countering James's weapon with his bare hand, transitioning to an open palm that glides past gracefully. He then pushes sideways, deflecting James's hand. James is stunned that Seowoon closed the distance and redirected his attack so swiftly. Seeing an opening in James's armor, Seowoon strikes with Spatial Strike, piercing James's chest. As blood gushes, Seowoon grabs James's head and knees him in the face, shattering his helmet. James stumbles backward and falls, knocked out. Seowoon places his foot on James's head and stomps, obliterating it into a mist. He remarks that James had significant life ki, and no amount of cultivation compares to absorbing it in-game. He notes 4 players remain in the area, still unsure if James was the other guy's teammate. An attack flies in from the side, and Seowoon dodges at the last second, wondering where the arrow came from. He traces its trajectory, spotting it from a house in the city. As another arrow approaches, he narrowly dodges, the arrow grazing his cheek. Wiping the blood, he asks if they'll keep targeting him. He continues dodging attacks, taking cover behind a tree but keeps moving, noting the archer's precision from a distance. Initially suspecting Zurikana, he realizes they aren't this skilled, wondering if the archer is alone or if their teammate is pursuing him. He reaches the back of the houses, leaping over a wall, deciding it doesn't matter as long as he locates the archer. If he catches one, the other will likely reveal themselves. Unlike the previous game, where he'd hide in houses to farm, he now views enemies as mere fuel for life ki. On a rooftop, 2 arrows fly in, one piercing his head, but it's revealed to be a shadow clone that fades. The archer, confused, insists he hit his target. Seowoon's foot crashes through the window, kicking the archer in the head, causing his nose to bleed. Seowoon declares he's caught him. The archer stumbles back, and Seowoon wonders if he'll vanish too, but the archer is gone. Realizing it's a cloak of hiding, Seowoon spots the archer's shadow as an attack flies in, barely dodging as it hits the door. He wonders if the archer escaped behind him, spotting him outside the window. The archer lands and turns a corner, but Seowoon vows not to let him escape easily. He leaps from the windowsill, cutting off the archer, noting that using the cloak in broad daylight was a mistake. The item could ensure a top rank by camping, but Seowoon demands he surrender it or die. Another voice interrupts, apologizing to his teammate for failing to catch Seowoon, who's faster than expected. The archer insists his ally should protect him at all costs. The ally, an elf, notes Seowoon's lack of a teammate. The archer says they just need to kill him, regardless. Seowoon regrets not eliminating the archer earlier, now facing a 2v1. Smiling, he muses that the numbers could work in his favor. The archer's teammate charges, and Seowoon realizes he can't focus on just one. The archer fires, and Seowoon dodges, the arrow forcing the teammate to block it. Seowoon summons a shadow clone, and darts into an alley. The archer, calling him elusive, loads a triple shot, and fires. The arrows lodge into Seowoon's back, and the archer, named Alex, boasts he never misses. But the real Seowoon watches from above, landing behind Alex and calling him arrogant. Alex turns, shocked, as Seowoon's hand pierces his stomach. Seowoon explains that appearances can deceive. With Alex knocked out, Seowoon prepares to finish him quickly. A teammate of the guy claims he wields bizarre magic, likely marking him as an illusionist. Seowoon counters that he's merely a returning student, and if the guy wants to rescue his friend, he'll need to defeat him. The guy boldly declares he'll not only take Seowoon down, but also claim the top spot. He charges towards Seowoon, who rushes forward in response. The guy unleashes an attack called Double Strike, while Seowoon counters with the same technique he used against James. He explains that the secret to countering lies in targeting the origin of the attack, closing the distance, and aiming directly for the shoulder. But as Seowoon moves in, his hand gets sliced, and he mutters, "This guy's insanely fast." The opponent switches to a reverse grip and launches an attack called Bloody Rush, slashing deeply into Seowoon's side. Seowoon notes that the sword feels distinctly different from a spear, and the cut is severe. Had he not shielded himself with inner energy, his arm and body would have been torn apart. The guy remarks, "It's odd me blade didn't cut as deeply as I expected. He must be using some kind of trick, like those illusions from before." Uncertain but undeterred, he declares that Seowoon's neck is next. Seowoon muses that if he can't end this in one blow, his only option is to counter. He ponders how to counter the guy's swift movements. Noting that this round has no penalty for failure, he closes his eyes, deciding to try something risky. Instead of tracking his opponent visually, he'll sense their energy and killing intent. He thinks, "If I can't even overcome this, how can I aim for first place?" Having trained for 2 months in every method of wielding inner energy, he's no longer the novice who struggled after learning from Dakian. In fact, he's among the rare few with a natural gift for it. When Seowoon opens his eyes, the guy's blade lies on the ground, with Seowoon pinning his head down and gripping his arm. The guy, stunned, asks how Seowoon blocked his ultimate move so effortlessly. Seowoon, equally surprised, feels as though he's shattered a barrier. The guy pleads for him to wait, but Seowoon finishes him off, revealing his name was Carl. The player count drops to 196. Seowoon remarks that, as expected, strong opponents possess abundant inner energy, and this one clearly farmed a lot. He picks up a recovery scroll and debates using it. "Obviously," he says, "I need to heal up and start farming slowly." Inspecting Alex's cloak, he wonders why he got so reckless and damaged it. He'll need a craftsman with unique skills or a special scroll to fix it. He muses that with this item, ranking up would have been easy, but he'll hold on to it for now. Curious about other loot, he finds a bow called the lightning-struck cottonwood bow, capable of firing arrows infused with faint lightning energy. He notes that he didn't sense any power from the arrows Carl shot, though. He also picks up a multi-shot skillbook, which lets him fire multiple arrows simultaneously. Seowoon comments that Carl wasn't even an archer, he just picked up the skill in the game. Deciding there's no harm in trying it, Seowoon tests the bow, firing a multi-shot. He declares it superior to his previous crossbow and believes it'll prove useful. Noticing only one team remains in his area, he opts to rest and farm before continuing. He observes that the village houses yield only mediocre items and wonders how Carl got lucky enough to find a cloak of hiding in one. Then he spots a massive tower in the town center. Places like that are usually prime farming spots, he says, heading straight for it. Noticing the closed door, he assumes no one's been inside and declares his intent to start a proper mukbang before shutting the door. Climbing the stairs, he hopes for valuable loot like another cloak of hiding or rings. Nearing the top, he grows frustrated, wondering if the tower is empty. He punches the wall, grumbling that sometimes things go smoothly and other times they're just infuriating. Looking down, he spots the last team in the area farming carelessly. He wonders if they have anything worthwhile and whether he can take them on alone. Noticing them pointing toward his tower, he realizes they might be heading his way. One of them, Kilroy, tells his partner that closed door means no one's inside. As Siwon watches from above, they mention missing a healing scroll. Siwon admits he overlooked it amid the clutter, but it turned out to be a useful trap. He leaps down, free-falling toward them, reasoning that if they're excited about a healing scroll, their gear and skills are likely unimpressive. He's about to crash down on one of them in a dramatic belly flop. With a flash of light, Siwoon's shadow clone descends upon Kilroy and his partner. Kilroy, the mage, turns in shock, exclaiming, A shadow?" before his body is stretched into a bizarre falling form. Kilroy's partner lunges forward, grabbing him. "Wah! Where the hell did he come from?" he shouts. Siwoon's voice cuts through the chaos. "If this mage was worth his salt," he says, "he would have started casting a barrier by now." He lands a devastating punch on Kilroy, then grabs him by the throat. "I'll end this with the next attack." With his hand glowing with a crimson aura, he unleashes Iskro's flame. As Siwoon's spell erupts, Kilroy's partner stares in bewilderment. "Damned bastard. Is he alone?" Kilroy, still in shock, replies, "If he had an ally, wouldn't they have attacked together?" With a furious expression, the partner charges forward, axe raised high. "Then we should just kill him," he roars. "I'll kill you, you slippery bastard." The fire spell engulfs the partner, who screams in agony. "Fuck, it won't go out." Kilroy, watching his ally burn, yells, "What the hell are you doing?" I was aiming for him, not you," the partner protests. From the air, Siwoon calls out, "Strike!" The partner stumbles, narrowly dodging his own spell, and screams, "No! I didn't do that on purpose. That bastard dodged my attack." Blood splatters as the partner brings his axe down on Kilroy's chest. "What are you doing?" Kilroy gasps. "You dare mock me?" the partner snarls, his face contorted in rage. I get it. So take this axe out of me." Kilroy begs, but his partner just places his foot on his body and declares, "Chest off." Kilroy's eye, filled with blood, widens in a final moment of confusion before his partner delivers the finishing blow. "Crushing strike!" Siwoon, watching from a distance, smiles. "Thanks for letting me get the last hit," he mutters to his clone. "Even still, do you really think you can catch me with just brute strength?" The partner, furious, chases Siwoon's clone. "Let's see if you can keep running your mouth after you're dead," he screams. He chases the clone, but Siwoon suddenly appears behind him. "Huh? You bastard! When did you get over there?" he yells. Siwoon's piercing strike goes straight through his body. The partner screams for help, but Siwoon just sighs. "Wait, who gets the kill if I do this?" he mutters, clearly frustrated. "Damn it, I did this because I thought it would be fun, but if I don't get the kill, I'll get less rewards. I am a retard." The partner, bewildered by Siwoon's monologue, asks, "Huh? Wait, what about the person I'm fighting right now?" Siwoon ignores him, kicking the building. "Do you hear that? You damn near cut this building in half." He continues to attack the crumbling structure, then stomps on the ground, enveloped in a red aura. "Aren't you curious what would happen if I do this?" The partner's body is enveloped in smoke and dust as the building collapses. Siwoon consults his map. "I'll waypoint the center of the map and head over." He glances at the hand sticking out of the rubble, then at the horizon. "Looks like the restricted zone is starting to close in. Since I landed early, by now there might be quite a few people on the other side too." With that, he decides it's time to go. I've caused enough of a commotion here, so it's time to bounce. He finds a chest from a previous kill, discovering that it still appears even if there's no room for it. Oh, so if there's no space for a chest to spawn, it will still appear separately from the corpse, he thinks, putting on a glove from inside. This is the only useful thing that Big Guy had. He then turns his attention to the mage's chests. Holy shit, this mage is a freaking golden goblin, he exclaims. There are even items that I've never seen before. He collects a magic explosion scroll, a cursed brooch, a philosopher's stone, and a fragmented secret manual. As he moves through a forest, he gets a new tutorial notification about monster spawn zones, boss monsters, and buff monsters. He's irritated, as this is all new information that wasn't available in the first game. It looks like there's a lot more in store than werewolves, he thinks. Why couldn't they have told me about this in the previous game? He continues traveling, moving at a much faster pace than he could in his first game, and soon finds himself in a mountainous area. I'm almost there, he says, before stopping in his tracks. What? Is it a monster? He sees a long-coated character fighting a monster, and two others, a mage and a martial artist, preparing to join the fight. I'll tie them down, so let's fight as defensively as possible, the mage says. The martial artist agrees. Seowoon, holding his weapon, watches them. Is it a mage and a martial artist combo? I haven't seen this one before, he thinks. With a serious and determined look, he says to himself, all right then, shall we start things off by taking one of them out? An arrow streaks through the air. An arrow, someone yells. There's an ambush. Somebody's targeting us. Another character is hit by a shard of ice, yelping, "Heek!" A man with a sword retaliates, crying out, 7-star sword art. Next to a monstrous creature, a character with dark purple hair speaks. There sure are a lot of them, but we're almost done, and it looks like we'll get a good reward. Let's end strong. The two monsters roar in response. Another character, distressed, shouts, we're about to get our ass beat. What are you talking about? We need to run now. A fire spell is cast, and the purple-haired man insists, we should fight them instead of trying to get the reward. He reconsiders. No, we're almost done. A worried-looking man in a robe mutters, will I be able to handle this all by myself? It costs me too much mana every time I kill one. The man with the sword shouts, 7-star sword art, while the robe-wearing man casts, Ice Lance. Another one is come, a voice cries out. Seowoon, watching from a distance, holds his weapon. Internal conflict, he muses. Should I provoke them a bit more? A worried character explains, if we run off now, then we'll also lose the reward for slaying these monsters. That's too big of a loss, so we should finish up quickly before moving. The purple-haired man, now with a red cross on his forehead, his aura flaring, says to his teammate, fuck, I told you the barrier won't be enough. With that level of destructive power, the barrier will shatter again. We need to run away quick. You need to cast another barrier now, a voice in a blue robe commands. You don't have to tell me that. Escrow style, barrier, another responds. Someone is shown dodging a projectile, looking worried. Huh, a voice says, as a powerful magical aura erupts. Look at that, a character exclaims, pointing. A large circular wall forms, and someone yells, what are you doing? The purple-haired man asks the man in the robe, can't you get rid of this immediately? He responds, it will take around 5 minutes. The man with the sword glares at his ally. If you do stupid shit like this again, then screw being allies. We'll have to go our separate ways. Seowoon, watching the scene unfold, thinks, so they've created a wall. Was it the mage? This is actually better for me. The purple-haired man shouts at the mage, are you trying to announce our location to our enemies? Shit, you just have to wait until this wall disappears. The sword wielder adds, instead of just wasting mana casting barriers, doing this is bet. Seowoon's voice cuts in. Now we can't figure out the location of the enemy. The man in the robe says, "Well, he shouldn't be able to get over that wall." The man with the staff agrees. "A wall like this is useless against a siege weapon like a bow. I see." Seowoon, holding a magic explosion scroll, confirms his strategy. The system window appears noting the scroll's effect, explodes 10 seconds after use. The countdown begins 10.9.8.7.6.5. An arrow-like projectile flies through the air, and the countdown continues 4.3.2.1.0. The two in the circle hear the explosion behind them. "Whoa!" one exclaims. "Shut up," the other says. The scroll's effectiveness was higher than they expected. A hand reaches out from the rubble, and a voice groans, "Oh!" A shocked face with bloody tears is shown. What? A sword is stuck in the ground. "Ugh, that dumbass," a voice says. "I almost died a dog's death just now." A man in a robe is shown trapped in the rubble. Seowoon, calm, looks down at him. "Thanks to your mage voluntarily caging you up, I'll be eating well. How do I send him my thanks?" He thinks to himself, "Haha, I guess it's also a skill to pick good allies. Seems like I have a long way to go." The sword wielder, with a bow and arrow, asks, "What's up?" Seowoon, now sitting in front of a treasure chest, says, Seeing how the chest appeared immediately, the mage probably died in the explosion earlier. Thank you for your hard work." He then thanks his opponent for the rewards. "I've got sword art, unarmed arts, footwork, and the whole set." He examines a system window, ***7, Star Cultivation Art Manual, the cultivation technique that is the foundation of the 7 Star Sword Art, ***. He scoffs. "Tch, this is all useless to me then." Another window appears, asking if he wants to replace his current white martial physique arts. He declines. He looks at two large monsters. He says, as they screech. He looks at a grimoire from the loot. "Seems like it's too high tier for me to learn." The window for ***, Ice Lance Grimoire, Circle 4, freezes the target and deals damage, ***. He loots the mage's chest from the rubble. "I found the mage's chest inside the rubble. Whoa, this is..." But not all of the items were useless. He finds an escrow's necklace, a tokar's ring, and the tears of Lamia. He smiles. "Hehe, I finally got it. Let's go." He walks away from the two defeated monsters. A little later, he says, "You're telling me they were struggling against these guys?" He looks at a bag on the ground. "Is this a reward for hunting the monsters? What's this?" A green aura surrounds him. If, like other games, the buff that the boss monster gives can completely flip the situation, then I need to kill it as soon as possible. He walks in a red-tinged landscape, thinking about the items he has. He looks at his hands, which are surrounded by a green aura. Then there are two things I need to know: whether I'm strong enough to hunt the boss monster, and whether there are other players who are thinking the same thing as me. He looks at his stats, noting that around 60 people died on the first day, and the player count is at 139,200. The system announces Cloyd Survival, Day 2. He continues walking toward the marker he placed earlier at the center of the map. The weather in the first game was quite nice though. I don't know why it's so hot here. Should I have waited for the sun to set before moving? He looks up, seeing a shadow of a bird-like creature. Huh? It's carrying a chest. That thing, if my guess is correct, that has to be a supply drop, right? The bird drops the chest, and Seowoon touches it. A system window appears. You have obtained a Cloyd Survival supply drop. It warns him that his location will be revealed for the next 6 hours. He thinks about the gamble. Well, there's no risk of failing in this match anyway, so shouldn't I just take this gamble? The window asks, "Would you like to open it?" His eyes widen in shock.